Hello everyone and welcome to a track guide in Project Cars. I've been banging on about getting these out for ages. Of course we're at the end of Project Cars 1, we just had our last major championship, so this is just to give you an idea of what's coming in Project Cars 2, because I'm going to do this for most tracks, especially circuits of course, to give you an idea of what you can use on the track and, you know, strengths and weaknesses of the track that you can use to try and improve your lap time and get a general idea and feel of it. So we're at Nurburgring GP, if you've not already guessed. This is one of my favourite tracks, and obviously it's one of the most recent ones as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you around the circuit, give you an idea of what I'm looking out for and how I look to get the best lap time possible on this track. And as it's one of my favourite tracks, but it'd be a perfect example. So it'll be slow in parts and then quick in places as well. Obviously the straights we don't have to talk about too much, but even so, let's get cracking here at the Nurburgring. So of course we're going to start on the start-finish straight, and we're going to look at one of my fastest laps here at the track. And as you head down this start-finish straight, you're really looking for the crest of the hill as you go into the first corner. Now, generally speaking, where the pit lane just curves there, that white line, that is going to be your first marker. You've also got the 150 metre board on the left hand side, you've got the 100 metre board, you've also got this tarmac to the left there that you can use to you know, gauge your braking point. You can also use the ones on the right. I use the ones on the left because that's where I am on the track at the moment. And then you've also got the curb and the 50 meters. So generally in the McLaren, I'm going to brake around the tarmac area. I'm not going to use the brake board. I'm going to use the tarmac area because the brake board could get wiped out at any point on this track. You know, if you come in too hot, someone's going to veer to the left, smash it out. You need an alternative brake marker. You've got the tarmac there. No one can wipe out that tarmac. So I use that as a gauge all the time on this track. So if I come in a new car, so say I come in an LMP2 car, I'm going to use that as my first brake marker and then adjust myself accordingly based on that. Now obviously sometimes you can push it further, sometimes you can push it back. So you're going to come into here and you're going to come down the gears. Now first gear is the best, and you want to take this as tight as possible. Basically you want the bump of the corner to really bring you round as quick as possible, and you can just see that there. Just brings you round very quickly, and then you can accelerate out really fast. You may get a bit of oversteer, but don't worry, don't need to catch it too much. As you come into this corner, you want to just let off and roll in and use all the curb on the inside. That'll give you a bit more grip, and you don't want to go too far to the outside because that green stuff there, you know, it's very slippy and it'll make the car slide. So use all the grip on the inside and go to the outside. So I've just paused it here just before we get to the third corner. We're in the Mercedes arena at the moment, as this is very important for this corner. Basically, there is no huge markers here. Now, some people will, you know, have their own perhaps, but I don't have a huge amount of markers here. So on the right hand side, you see where it goes light green and dark green then light green. That is sort of one marker, but when the light is right on this track, so say you've got no time progression, we're at 1 o'clock here at this point, or around 1 o'clock, you can just see in the center of the track there's like a strong dark line going across the track. I use that as my gauge. Now you want to brake early for this corner and let it roll. Or trail braking, of course. If you trail braking, you can trail brake in, and you want to use as much of the curb as the inside as possible. Basically all that light green stuff is very grippy, and it's grippier than the track, so you get on there, it'll pull the car around, get around the corner a little bit quicker and get a good line for the exit out of the Mercedes arena. So as we come into here, you'll see I'm braking, and I'm just going to come in, try and hit it. There we go, I grip it. Look how much more the car turns there. That gives me a perfect angle for this right-hander. You want to do the same again on the inside. Through we go. Don't use any more of the track than that, otherwise you will get a shortcut penalty. And it's the same on the other side. And then as you leave, try and straighten out the car as much as possible. You've got a bit of runoff there that you can use, and that'll get you a pretty good lap time, or a pretty good sector one at least, through that sector. So making sure you do take the light green stuff because it's quite grippy. It'll pull the car around. And don't take too much. Obviously, if you go more than 4 wheels off the track, so over the curb, it will give you a shortcut penalty, so just be aware of that, but you can push limits here and there, depending on how the cut penalties work. Obviously if you're running a championship with white lines, obviously you're going to have to obey the white lines, but you can still get 2 wheels on there and it's still very grippy. So that's the end of sector 1. As we come into sector 2, this left and right, this is quite a tricky corner, and I see a lot of people get this wrong. I still get it wrong occasionally, is that you come in here too hot. So basically, my brake marker, it's not using any of the brake markers again, it's using the tarmac on the right hand side, and I brake just before the end of the tarmac. So as we come in, just brake there, and then you want to come in, and you want to come in and stay tight. So I'm constantly adjusting my mid-quarter speed here. Stay tight. You want to come as to the left as possible. I'm not as left as I want to be, and then come down to second gear and go into this right-hander. And now you got to stay tight here as well and accelerate early. You've got quite a lot of runoff with the curb. So you want to accelerate early, try and use as much of that as you can and accelerate out. As I say, the more to the left you are on the first part, the better the second part is, and this is where the time gain is, because you'll carry more speed down to the hairpin. Now I'm just going to pause it for the hairpin. As you come into this hairpin, you've got the light on the right hand side, you've got the position board as well to use, you've got this tarmac here, you've also got the curbing to the left as well that you can use, loads and loads and loads of brake markers that you can use to try and get your consistency up. Generally speaking, in this GT3 car, I'm using the light on the right hand side as my ideal brake marker, but again, it's your choice here. You can choose what you want, where you want. That's the idea of the track guide. So as you come into this hairpin, the best line in Project Cars is to stay really tight and not to take it as a double apex. And basically that allows, because you're using the camber of the corner, it allows you to get out the corner earlier as well. So as we come in, we use all the left hand side, so we're using the curb to brake, and we come in and we're aiming the car onto the inside. I stay in second gear here. Some people go to first. I reckon second gear is better in most cars, just because you're not going to get wheel spin out. I get a slight bit of slide, but nothing to worry about. You don't have to use all the exit. And that board there with that shadow, that's like a time reference point I use. So I look at sector 2 time, and you can see I'm doing that in the bottom left hand corner. I look at that and I go, okay, is it, where is it about? Normally it's like a change of a second, and I can go, okay, it's a good lap or a bad lap, and it just gives you an idea of how well you've done the first part of sector 2. So it's well worth noting that. As we come up to the Schumacher rest now, you want to use all the curb on the right side. Now it's flat in this car, but obviously you're going to have to adjust accordingly. You see these white markers on the actual grey bit. The first one is my turning point, and I accelerate through. Don't worry about using too much curb on the right hand side, just be worrying about the left hand side. You don't want to run too wide there. You hit the gravel, you lose so much speed. And that's the end of sector 2. So just come to the Panasonic bridge. So if you can hear my spacebar going, I'm literally watching this as I record it. But as we come to the end of sector 2, we've got loads of brake markers now for the start of sector 3. Basically, I use the end of the tarmac again. I say I use tarmac a lot because you can't wipe it out, so you can stay consistent even if someone wipes out the brake markers. You've also got this white line, which is a good one if you've got really bad braking in the car. You've also got the brake markers, of course. And again, this is all about, similar to sector 2 with the left and right, it's all about getting the second part of this right, so you have a really good run down the back straight. So as you come in, you want to brake early. Don't be aggressive into this first turn. Try and use a bit of the curb on the inside if you can. Don't go too far to the exit. If you touch that curb on the exit of the first left there, you'll spin the car. And as you come into here, you just wanted to let the car roll. Let the car roll, let the car turn in, do its thing. Once you hit the curb, put your foot flat to the floor. Now, it doesn't matter if you clip the gravel on the right side. Just make sure you don't stay in there too long. I've just paused it here on the end of the gravel because I use that as a speed reference point. You want to know how good you've done this corner because it's a real big time gain, basically, as you leave this corner. Now, in this GT3 car, I was always looking at 110. As you see, I've done it a bit better here. So at the end of the curb, I'm going to be about 111, 112. So I know I've done a pretty good start sector 3. But even so, we carry on as we head towards the chicane now. As I say, you want to push the second part of that right-hander. Don't worry too much about the first left-hander. It's all about the line through here and heading towards the chicane. There's so much speed here. Remember, carrying an extra couple of miles an hour, we're getting so much more than just carrying a few more in the middle of the corner. As we come into here, brake marker. Ooh, I've just accelerated a bit past that. You got the 100 meter board. You got the 50 meter board. You got the white line as well. I normally brake around the 100 meter board initially, just because that's generally where cars are fine. But as you head towards the chicane, and we come into here, you've got to be careful in the chicane. There's a massive bump in the chicane. Now, I always try and take quite a lot of the first left-hander, but not too much. If you can cut it even more than I do, but if you cut it more than I do, you're going to hit the bump, or the start of the bump, and it's going to unsettle the car. I'm also rolling at this point. I'm not braking. I don't want the car to be doing anything. I don't want to unsettle it anymore. Because if I'm braking and turning into here, the car is fully loaded up, and if I hit a bump, it's going to cause the car to either oversteer, understeer, do all sorts of weird things. So you want to come into here, you want to let the car cut quite a lot of the first part, and you want to cut a lot of the second part of the chicane. And that's where there's a lot of time in the chicane. And people don't realise this. People think you've got to cut the first part to get the time. It's the second part. Now obviously if you're using white lines, you're going to hit the bump. But as we're using in-game penalties in most of the stuff I do, I'm going to look at the in-game penalties. So as we come through here, you can see that I cut quite a lot. The right-hander, I cut a lot. Now, as I say, as long as you've got wheels on that curb, you're not going to get a penalty. Any more further over, you're going to get a penalty, and that'll be 5 seconds. You've got to be careful of that. The more to the left you are of the second curb here, the more to the left, the more you hit the bump, the more unsettled the car is going to be. You've also probably just seen that I just short shifted, and that's a really good tip here in a lot of cars. Because of that bump, if you short shift, you're not going to have as much wheel spin, and therefore the car's going to be a bit more settled through the second part, and you can accelerate out and not worry about oversteer too much. Of course, if it's got quite a lot of torque in the lower RPM, perhaps that might not work, but in the majority of cars it should work. As we come through here now, so you can see the car's fine. You can see stability control acting a little bit, but even so we carry on. Now as we come into this last corner, again, there's not a huge amount of brake markers. Some people go on to the left onto the curbing. I don't recommend that. Your consistency will go down if you go onto that curb. You will get a slightly faster lap if you nail it, but consistency is key, generally speaking, in most races. So don't use that. On the right hand side, you've obviously got your pit lane. That's how I judge where I'm going to brake. So you've got the black and white marker for the pit entrance. You've also got all the curb there, and you can use that as general judgment on where you want to go. You've also got the tyres on the left hand side and the barrier changing colour a bit further on with the orange and white, which you can use, but because the corner's a right hander, I'm going to look to the right hand side. It doesn't matter if you run slightly wide here or slightly tighter, it's not a lap breaker. So as you come into here, I'm going to use the right hand side, just the pit entry where the curb starts. I'm going to come in. I stay tight here. Other people can run wide. Obviously, you're going to start a fast lap. Stay wide and get a really good run out the corner. Be careful on the exit. Again, this will make or break a lap if you touch that gravel, but you've got a lot of curb in there to use as well. And we head towards the start-finish line to end a lap of the Nurburgring GP circuit. And in this situation, it's a 1:53.2. So I hope you enjoyed that little track guide there. It's just to give you an idea of what I use to brake and some tips about the track. You know, you've got camber in there and things like that that you can use to your advantage. Some gear changes and things like that. The bumps, especially in the chicane, real big issue. And as I say, you can cut quite a lot on the second part to try and avoid that bump if at all possible. But that's it for now for the Nurburgring GP track guide. I hope you enjoyed that. Plenty more to come in Project Cars 2 with track guides, so do keep an eye out for those. But if you liked it, like it, dislike it, dislike it. If you want to see something different or you think there's something else I could do to improve this, let me know in the comments. But that's it for now, and I'll see you next time.